Okay, hello everyone and welcome to the video demo for knockdown of the fully dentate arch. So for this activity, obviously you're going to need your fully dentate arch, and we're going to be knocking down all the assigned missing teeth for our cases. Besides the arch, you're going to need something to remove the teeth. You can use a wax knife or a cutter, a box cutter. Tapos you'll also need a pair of pliers and sandpaper. What I have here is 200 grit, 600 grit, and 1000 grit sandpapers. Alright, so let's begin. The first thing you need to do to knock down your teeth is mark kung ano yung mga kailangang i-knock down, the teeth that are missing. I already took the liberty of marking them. Alright? So, refer to the partially dentate arches, the images that I've sent in Google Classroom, so you have an idea what tooth you need to knock down. Everybody has the same case din naman, so just refer to that. As for the upper and the lower, I've already marked them as well, para hindi kayo malito kung ano yung kailangan yung i-knock down. Okay? So, after that, I'm going to do the upper arch. Alright? So, the first thing you do is to separate the teeth that you want to knock down from the teeth that you want to retain. Now, the reason for this is that when you try to break them off, no, with the use of the pliers, you do not accidentally damage the teeth that you want there. Okay? So that's the first thing we do. Normally, I like using micromotors for this now, but since we don't have micromotors, let's try using cutters or wax knives. Alright. So when you try to separate them, we're going to separate one, this is 1/6 to 1/4. You cut it on the area where the marginal ridge of 1/6 is. Okay, you do not try to cut it right in between. Kasi ang mangyayari nun, you're going to reduce the proximal surface of 1/6 and you're going to reduce the proximal surface of 1/5 as well. Right, so you cut it right where the marginal ridge of 1/6 is. Suffice to say, you have to be careful. The cast is relatively soft, so you should have no problems with cutting. Okay. All the way into the interdental gingiva. There. So that's separated already. Okay, so once you've had that separated, you can use the pliers to break off 1/6. Since this is going to be a freehand case, we don't need to separate individual teeth. Okay, we just need to separate teeth that are going to be retained from the teeth that are going to be knocked down. It's going to be messy. Try to remove as much tooth. If you're going to knock it down and some of the edentulous ridge breaks off, don't worry. In fact, I would rather that you break the entire thing off. Alright? All crowns, if you, like I said, if you manage to break off some of the edentulous ridge, that's okay, because we're going to be simulating resorption anyway. Okay? Alright. Next step is that if you notice, no, before we knocked it down, there's a bit of like projections, no? I don't know if you can see it, but there are projections here, there, here, that signify where the roots are, right? But we're going to simulate a partially edentulous patient. So if the teeth are extracted, obviously dapat yung mga root projections here should be non-existent. Also, you have to remove that, not only to remove the root projections, but also to simulate resorption. And you can use your wax knife for that, or you can use your cutter for that. And like I said, the cast is relatively soft, so you can just scrape that off. Right, so I should not see any evidence of root projections here. In fact, if you can like reduce it even more, no, to create undercuts, that's even better. He also said that right around the premolar area here, you need to be able to create tissue undercut. So right around this area, to be realistic, kailangan may tissue undercut there. So you can just use your wax knife, use the concave part, and just scrape that so you can create an undercut. So it's really simple, dali lang naman. It's plaster, so it's relatively soft. Yeah. You could maybe reduce that even further. Okay. Alright, and also notice that this ridge is a bit flat. I want sana na meron siyang resorption kahit papano. I want to retain where the maxillary tuberosity is. So maybe I'm going to create the curve somewhere along this line, parang paganyan. Right, to simulate occlusal resorption. So let's do that right now. When you're using your thumb as a finger rest, make sure that it's against the gingiva, okay, because you're going to exert a lot of force here. As you remove more teeth, no, your retained abutments become more susceptible to breakage kasi wala na silang katabi. So if you use the thumb rest, if you use your thumb rest and you place it on the teeth and then you try to cut the residual ridge, baka mabasag, right? So when you're trying to carve, make sure that your thumb rest is on the base, maybe that's fine, or on the gingiva, not on the teeth na, so baka mabali mo. Right? Make sure that everything is rounded, right? Kasi nabawasan ko na siya. No? But I've managed to make a sharp edge here. So I'm going to round that off as well. Like I said, it's really messy. Okay. All right. You could also reduce the palatal then as well. So I like using the wax knife kasi the blade is curved, right? So I can use blade as a guide to be able to carve curves along the residual ridge. Let's make the tissue undercut more pronounced. So whenever you have a premolar abutment, adjacent to that should be a tissue undercut. So we can use that anatomy to teach you how to survey that area and how to block it off properly. Yeah, managed to make an undercut there. See, there's an undercut already. It's not as big as I want it to be. Maybe reduce that even further. Yeah. All right. Make it more gradual. Alright, and after that we use sandpaper.